we were given the story, and then we grew up to discover that it was a one-sided story. Because sometimes when you begin to defend yourself, or you begin to debate about it, it will be like you do not really know what happened. You still have to go and recheck your history, or maybe you weren't taught the whole story. And after doing some research, hearing some documentaries about this whole thing, then I begin to wonder, like, there is a lot to this story that, of course, a lot of us are not aware of it. And I think these things should be revisited. How these things are taught to our children also should be revisited, because they will also grow with that notion of the one-sided story, right? It's better to know how this whole thing unfolds, so that you know where you are heading to as a person, as a nation, or as a community, right? Now, you don't know which is the real story, because there is a story of which almost all of us are aware of, that our slave masters came in, and the Europeans came in and went away with a lot of Africans. They went away with their ancestors, they maltreated them, and now we're hearing that when it comes to the slave trading, our ancestors played a very vital role. If Africans had not started the slave trading themselves, the Europeans wouldn't be as successful as they were, right? Because this thing started indigenously. Like when you go for war with some other indigenous persons, you win the war, you get them as slaves, you get their women, you get their men, you get their children as slaves, and then you bring this slave to your house, they work for you, you also maltreat them. Right? You also maltreat them. And sometimes some will say that the difference between the indigenous slavery and that of the Europeans, the humans was not seen as a commodity. Right? Humans was not seen as something you prize. Like, okay, we need this to have one man or woman. We need so amount to have one woman or woman. We're going to give you this to have about how many 40 human beings and the rest of them. Then the European slavery, it was like human being was not regarded as a human. And all thanks to those of our leaders that were in charge of selling us out to these persons. And like I said, it's still quite unfortunate that we are still being sold. You know, when I talked about the issue with Adebute, when he rejected the offer of Elon Musk, right? I was happy because I felt like it's like we are now waking up. If it were those times, it won't be rejected. And this is how we are still being sold. We are still being sold to these persons. And the reason why they keep coming is that they are used to the fact that our leaders sells us. You get the point? They are used to that fact. When I heard that an umbrella can go, 40 humans can go for an umbrella. You know, the pain you could feel, you know, you can't just hold back the tears. You can't just hold back the tears. These are humans. We are all created, like God loves us all, right? And then you look at some particular persons as not fit to be alive. They are born to be slaves. I think it was about 400 years. This issue of slave trading lasted for about 400 years. The reason why these things keep going for so long is because of the naive nature of the mind of our leaders. Should I say it's wickedness plus ignorance plus greed. These were the three factors that led to our ancestors selling us to the slave masters. One thing with these white people, one thing with them is that they like taking advantage of situation. Right? They'll do it in a way that at the end of it all, you will see yourself blaming yourself. And this is where they think they have upper hand to us. Because now, when the debate was so hot, they started bringing back history. They started telling us to go back and ask our ancestors. They started telling us to go back and reread or recheck history to see that it was our ancestors that sold us out to them. They never forced them to sell us out. You see where they bring guns in exchange for a particular amount of persons. You know, the painful one is this umbrella owner I'm talking about. Umbrella, for Christ's sake. And then they come to our leaders, they give them things that will make them look rich and superior. So they keep using them. They keep using them. You know, they got them on that. Okay, these were people that were living so low, you are living higher than them. So coming with things that they've never seen before, this now gave room. And for the fact that there was wickedness and greed in the heart, now this now gave room to them taking advantage of their ignorance. Right? And now you can't say anything anymore, because when you talk, they'll tell you to go back and check history. When you debate it, they'll tell you to go back. It was your leaders, your ancestors that gave you to rest. We didn't struggle, smuggled you out. We didn't come and tie your hands and your leg or close your mouth without your leaders knowing. It was your leaders that sold you to us. And it is painful, right? The slaves started rebelling. Like let's say a cow can carry about hundreds of slaves with just about 25 slave masters. Even with those chains on them, they have their ways, and then they will kill all the slave masters on that ship. And then they will tell the sailor to sail them to an island. That is, if they are aware or they see an island ahead of them, they will tell the sailor to sail them to an island where they will come down and send the sailor off. So the sailor will be the only one that will be alive. To cut this loss, to them is a loss. Of course, it was an agreement. I gave you a number for so amount of person. So since the persons are not there, I'm coming to collect what I gave to you, right? They had to resort to this issue of well, which they dug. And then before a slave will cross over, they have to drink from that water. And by the time they drink from that water, they are weak. Like they are just like vegetables. They won't be able to do anything until they reach their destination. Like when they take that water, they're going to be weak for 4 months. So while they sail on that water, they won't on the ocean. While they sail, they won't even know what is happening to them until they have reached where they are supposed to reach. And by the time they regain their consciousness, they see that they cannot go back anymore. They have to face the reality. This was what our ancestors put us in. And if we still wouldn't want to see that this thing keep happening by day in all African countries, we have the tendency to be good to ourselves. Also, we have that tendency to be wicked. They know that bodily we are stronger than them. We have more stamina, we have more strength than they have. And if we put our minds together, we put our hearts together, we are going to conquer them. But because of greed, they'll deliberately bring something, they'll deliberately bring a proposal which they know our leaders cannot say no to. This is how they have upper hands. They do not have two heads. They are the same human being like us, just that their color is different. But this is what they use to get our leaders. They know our leaders will always be after what they do not have. So they come and give it to them. And sometimes they check these things, they are just peanuts. And then they come and give these things to our leaders. And our leaders sell us freely to these people. And this keeps happening till date in most of the African countries. Until we say enough is enough to our leaders. And that is why I keep emphasizing on the fact that before we look out, let's look within ourselves. Even as nations, as countries in the continent, sometimes we have issues. Right? This country will say no, that country is like that. No, don't come to our place again. That one will say no, don't do this one, don't do that one. We are heartless to ourselves. We are being wicked to ourselves. We don't love each other, and that is why they can easily get to us and defeat us. The fact that we are not equal and the sacredness of human life was not a thing of interest is what bothers me. Right? I think the Arabs were one of the earliest slave traders, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, I think the Arabs, they started there years before the Europeans began what they started as well. And you said this issue of religion. They've used religion, they've brainwashed us, They've made us believe a lot of things that they themselves do not practice. And then we tell ourselves, no, this is what religions say. A lot of times, we are more religious now, even in Africa. We are more religious now than being spiritual. Because, yeah, there's a difference between religiosity and spirituality. If we are as spiritual as we are as religious, then a lot of evil that happens in each of our countries in Africa won't continue happening. Yeah, we are tied to that rituals. We have to do like this. We have to go like that. We have to dress like this. We have to dress like that. Right? We have to talk like this. We have to talk like that. But how is our heart? How is our consciences? Because if we are as spiritual as we are as religious, our leaders will not be still selling us. That is to say, our consciences are still alive. But a lot of times, our consciences are dead. And these things we learned from them. We learned these things from the whites. Because there are times that they will live with slaves. You get the point? They are living in a house, they are up there praising God and worshipping, but underneath that house there are slaves. And all the time you see us going to churches. All the time you see us going to mosques. Right? On Fridays we run. Sometimes we block the road for people not to pass because we are praying. We go and lie down on the road everywhere for people to see that we are praying. On Sundays, we dress and tie the whole mountain on our head and move like this. Yes, we are going to church. Everybody will see that we go to church. We hold the Bible, some bigger than whatever. We go and sit down. And when they are preaching, we are doing like this. Yes. Yes. As if the thing is entering. But our consciences are dead. Because if those words were sinking and they were working, then a lot of evil that happened in our nation, in our continent, will not keep going on. We need to ask ourselves as Africans, where have we gone wrong? As individuals, where have I gone wrong? I keep saying this, right from our homes, those little efforts we make, and the fact still remains that if we do not wake up, if we do not open our eyes, if we do not become wiser, these people will keep taking advantage of our vulnerability. Should I say that, or our wickedness to ourselves? They will take advantage of that. Because they're always looking for a loophole. They're always looking for where they can easily go and say, okay, this is something that we can use against them. They're looking for some. Majority of these slaves were sold by their leaders from Africa. They even tried their best to make it possible so that these slaves will not run away by giving them that water. You can imagine how far we go to destroy our neighbors just for some useless things. And the more we keep hiding under the shadows, we do not want to be broad, we don't want to open our eyes to learn things. This is why they should teach these things to our children in schools. Give them the story the way it was. There's no issue of saying, okay, we don't want them to look at their leaders as if their leaders are wicked. No, give them this story the way it was. Let them know the truth so that they can know things will start changing. But by the time people don't know the truth, they don't know what is really going on, they don't know how it happened, and boom, all of a sudden they are telling us to go back and reread. Because this is what they say. They will tell you to go back and check. When you start talking about slave trading, go back and check your history. Ask your leaders to tell you the truth. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your comment and thought there in the section below what you think about this whole issue of slave trading in Africa. And then I'll see you in my next one. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed. And then hit the notification bell so you get notified whenever I upload new videos. Bye.